You are listening to Lovely Talks Heavy.
Hello everybody and welcome to Lovely Talks Heavy. I am your host Lovely and I discuss everything I enjoy with regard to heavy music. So it's only been 3 episodes since my last metal news segment. However, I wanted to make this a regular installment on the show where I look at metal news at least once a month, take a look at the interesting stuff that's happened since I last talked about metal news, and give my perspective on it all. I mainly want to do this so I can prove to the world that I'm not just a curmudgeonly hermit who just sits in their dark corner and listens to only Powerwolf all day every day. I want to say, listen world, I'm a curmudgeonly hermit who occasionally takes breaks from sitting in a dark corner and only listening to Powerwolf all day every day to log on to metalinjection.net a couple times a week. That's joking aside, we've got 3 new things to look at in this one, plus a handful of other cool and also not so cool bits of news to discuss here, so let's dive right into it. Let's start out on a fun note by talking about Eric Calderone and John Young's metalized version of the theme song to Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This was obviously done to celebrate the release of Avengers Infinity War, which some choices were made about that film. But I really loved the cartoon and was very excited to see the cheesy and catchy theme song Fight as One be adapted into a power metal anthem. The reception to this video is quite underrated in my opinion. Maybe I'm just biased towards really good art. Like, yes, of course, Eric Calderone has some viral hits on his channel, some of which I do like, but let's be real. We need to be spending more time appreciating this goddamn art piece. In fact, I'm gonna make you do that right now as I transition into the next bit of news. Let's do this. I care not for Carol's King or the band to which he is attached, but I have to admit that his small appearance on the Jim Jeffries show got a little chuckle out of me. The comedian Jim Jeffries was talking about incels, or for those that are late to the terminology as I was, involuntary celibates, men who see themselves as oppressed because no women want to have sex with them. Oh, I'm laid low by the matriarchy because I am an insufferable human and think I'm owed sexual acts from any woman who looks at me. I pin the term incel onto my being as a scarlet letter of pity, as a symbol of my epic quest to one day get laid. One day all these women will see that the only way to cure the ills of my existence, and by extension society as a whole, is if they drop on their knees and give me a blowjob, and then they shall rightfully worship the empty vessel which would hold my personality, you know, if I actually had one. Okay, that was in the script. I spent at least 20 minutes writing that out specifically. And I'm not taking it out, but even that's getting off the rails in my opinion, just a little. Let's get back on the track here. Incels, right? So basically, Jim Jeffries had Carrie King come on to help this oppressed group out a little bit. It was noted in this little dialogue that Carrie King has had hundreds of sex. That sounds weird, but I'm sticking with the terminology, despite the fact he's not the most attractive dude in the world. How did you manage that, Carrie King of Slayer? Well, Jim, it was because I knew how to play the guitar. And then he walks off the stage. I'm paraphrasing a bit there, but that's the general idea. Which, it's a funny thing because the general running joke that prevails through, like, hard rock and heavy metal culture is that guitarists get laid, like, all the time. But in my unqualified opinion, the thing about comedy is that in order for it to be effective, it also has to make you think. You can laugh at the running joke in Metalocalypse that everywhere death clock go, people die gruesome bloody deaths, either through accidents from a stage show or from recklessness of their transportation, and they face no consequence for this because people literally sign their lives away to attend a show, and they're so rich and so worshipped by the world around. It makes you think because it's almost a reflection of the real world, and yet at the same time it's so hyperbolic that it couldn't possibly happen. But could it? So when we look at the jokey dialogue here between Jim Jeffries and Kerry King, the surface analysis that can be reached is that guitarists by default are sexy. We dig 1 inch deep into the dirt and we can get an innuendo. Guitarists really know how to work with their fingers, if you know what I mean. That might be a read on my attraction to Magnus Hammersmith. But the real thing to be inferred from this joke is that instead of dedicating so much time on Reddit to whining about how you're not getting laid, you could do something like learn a skill like playing guitar. Or you could just make art, exercise your creativity, could learn to code, go outside and play tennis, go to law school, something more useful than whining on Reddit about women. I think the joke could have been way better though, in that it could also say that women aren't just sex dispensers that you can just push compliment dollars into, and, you know, they're, weirdly enough, shockingly enough, human beings with feelings and ideas. I could be wrong, though, because I didn't watch that whole episode of Jim Jeffries, just the bit with Kerry King, so they could have mentioned the fact that women are human beings somewhere else in the episode, so correct me if I'm wrong here. Thank you in advance. Here's the not-so-fun news, but don't worry, it gets a bit better in the end. 2 Native American Mohawk metalhead brothers, Thomas and Lloyd Gray, were on a campus tour at Colorado State University. While scoping out the potential landscape for their future, however, a parent was scared because they were, quote, too quiet. She believed they were lying about their own names and prospective fields of study, and their clothing represented dark stuff and called the police on them. The brothers were removed from their tour, and after they were let go, they weren't allowed to rejoin the tour after being removed, and so they went home after having scraped together enough money to make the drive over to Colorado State in the first place, which is just sucks, in my opinion. CSU's president later posted a statement that this event was no fault of the Gray brothers and that people should be made to feel welcome at CSU, no matter their race, religion, gender identity, etc. The clothing that represented dark stuff in question were cattle decapitation and archspire shirts. Later on, Good Guys Cattle Decapitation tagged the Gray brothers on their Facebook page, saying that they were guest listed for life at their shows. Way to be, good job, Cattle Decap. A Coloradoan article notes that this was an act of racial profiling, and while the clothes in question was a factor in the woman's decision to call the police on them, it wasn't the major component of it. There's definitely more in this whole story, but I will link the relevant articles in the description of this episode. And now this is the part where I say that these boys 100% did not deserve this treatment. I'm glad to see that the university is working to prevent similar future incidents like this, and it seems they've worked to condemn incidents of white supremacy in the past on their campus. Despite this, I wouldn't blame the brothers if they decide that they wouldn't want to go to Colorado State anymore due to this treatment that they received. Writer Kim Kelly pointed out if we want to support the brothers that they actually have a band called Snot Goblin and they're on Bandcamp. Their album, The Path of the Shrunken Heads, is available at a name-your-price rate. It's 4 songs of what I can only describe as a gruesome, nasty fairy tale. Anybody that likes their music a little more humid-sounding will love Snot Goblin. Support the Gray Brothers. Babymetal are at it again! The idol metal group whom the metal community have adopted as its collective daughters are partnering with 5B Artist Management and Records to start up their own label, Babymetal Records. This is likely to help with worldwide distribution and marketing outside of their home country of Japan. A week after the announcement of the record label, we were taken by surprise with a new song and new music video called Distortion, which is available for purchase right now. All of this just before they kicked off their world tour. This is very likely leading into a concept album from Babymetal, considering that they've announced a new era and are alluding to the Chosen Seven, who we see are characters in the video for Distortion. If not a concept album, then at least they're setting the stage for what's to come for this tour, since a lot of visuals are typically incorporated into Babymetal's live performances. This concept might be set in an apocalyptic world, and the Chosen Seven are the only ones who can save the world. In the music video, we see a run-down world plagued by monsters, not too dissimilar from what one might see in the video game Shadow of the Colossus, and these characters are fighting them with mystical powers. The monsters are defeated, and suddenly a dark star looms in the sky. We see each of the Chosen Seven a little bit more closely, and then they look upon the dark star in the sky. The song itself feels like the opening theme song to a metal magical girl anime, and utilizes a lot more of the English language than is typical of a Babymetal song. I really love it. Finally, let's round out this episode by talking about the music video for Black Wedding by In This Moment, featuring Rob Halford. You might have heard of him. He's really coming up in the heavy metal world. I think it's a fun little song and music video. Maria Brink is dressed in all black as she walks down the aisle to a version of Here Comes the Bride that's discordant just around the edges. Rob Halford fittingly plays the role of a priest, a Judas priest. God, that's bad. In this video, as the rest of In This Moment play as clergymen. Of course, there's the fun little nod to Billy Idol as Maria and Rob sing, "It's a nice night for a black wedding." So that's pretty much it on that. I just wanted to say that I really like the music video. So that will do it for this week's episode of Lovely Talks Heavy. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Every time the show hits a new set of ears, it means the world to me. What was the most interesting bit of metal news to you in these past few weeks? Hit me up on social media. On Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, and Mixcloud, I am LovelyMetalhead. And until next week, next Saturday, the next episode of Lovely Talks Heavy, you stay brutal, my friends. Bye.